I don't understand Chelsea's transfer plan here. Apparently, Chelsea are in for both Xavi Simons and Alejandro Garnacho, which this could come close to 100 million with both transfer fees because Xavi Simons for sure will be over 50 million. Alejandro Garnacho, that one you may be able to get away with 30, maybe 40 million. So this is going to be a combined fees of close to 100 million. But Chelsea, why are you in on two guys, two attackers, when you've already had a transfer window with a bunch of attackers and they have a clear need, which I'll get into in a second. But this is Chelsea's depth when it comes to wingers and forwards. You have also Joao Pedro and Delap who came in. Nicholas Jackson is still there and Cuckoo's still there. You know, you have all these attackers. Wingers, you got Gittins, Pedro Neto, Estevao is coming in. You still have Modric, who you spent 100 million, who I know he's suspended. You have Cole Palmer as well, an attacking midfielder that could also play on the wings. So there's tons of options for Chelsea going forward. And for them to be in for two more wingers, to me, is absolutely insane, mate. Because you've spent so much money already on these wingers and attackers that I'm absolutely flabbergasted. Like, do you think you're going to be playing one team for the Champions League, one team for the Premier League, and one team for the Cups? Like, that's the way they're moving right now. And to be honest, they're very lucky that they've been able to scam their way to a bunch of profits, man. Because getting a profit on Joao Felix, Madueke, and possibly Nicholas Jackson if he's sold, considering they want 65 million for him, and there's some teams that might need an attacker and they might get desperate, like United and Newcastle, if Newcastle sell Isak. So they're just scamming and reloading. And honestly, the crazy thing about Chelsea is they never end up landing anything world class. Because aside from maybe Cole Palmer here, you can't really argue any of these players are genuinely world class. You know, all these signings. And it's been a while since Chelsea have landed a world class attacker. They just keep inserting like players that can be world class, but they're not there yet. They need to develop, and then Chelsea gets frustrated after a couple of years and they'll throw them away. That's literally the Chelsea meta. You come in here, if you're not world class by the end of the season, mate, you're out. And they're lucky Cole Palmer worked out, or else that's never worked. So, you know, this is all the signings they've had so far. They have Estevao, winger. Giddens, winger. Delap and Joao Pedro, strikers. Hato, defender. And then, you know, you got a couple other, you know, fill-in guys. And then Xavi Simons is a guy who could play attacking midfielder or even winger. And then they also want to get Garnacho. To me, that's way too much at one point. And if I'm Xavi Simons and I'm Garnacho, I'm looking at all that depth. And I'm like, am I going to be able to compete? Because Pedro Neto had a great Club World Cup. To me, he should be starting. Gittins is a young, exciting winger. You know, there's a plenty of other options there at Chelsea, you know, to be playing attacking. And to have Simons and Garnacho come in, it's just too much. At one point, you're not even going to be playing. Do you want to be the next Joao Felix and Nkunku? That's what I'm looking at right now. You know, this guy Nkunku used to dominate in Germany. And now he's third fiddle at Chelsea. Xavi Simons, are you not looking at this? To me, career-wise, if I'm one of these two guys, no way I go to Chelsea. That's the last spot. And this is the lineup right here. They're saying, you know, maybe Simons and Cole Palmer play together. I think it might make sense for Xavi Simons if he genuinely can beat out the likes of Pedro Neto, who I think had a fantastic Club World Cup, also did well in the UEFA Nations League. So to me, you're kind of battling out with him. Gittins, you know, he's a young winger. There's plenty of, you know, competition when it comes to Chelsea. It's absolutely insane. You know, it's a bunch of like good players, and then you got like Cole Palmer. That's literally what it is when it comes to going forward. Tons of potential in that team, tons of players with potential, and the fact that they keep getting profit out of these players is absolutely mind-boggling. But the way they're doing the transfer market, it's monopoly-wise. You know, Todd Bowley coming in, putting the American way. You know, basically saying, oh yeah, we're just going to take everything and hopefully something works out. That's basically what they're doing. And when they're selling, they're somehow upselling. It's absolutely crazy the way they've really handled the transfer market. But this is the signing I've been saying. Donnarumma, man. If you're really about it, Chelsea, and there's reports saying, rumored that Donnarumma may be on the way out to Chelsea and he might want a new challenge. Mate, are you really convinced by Sanchez, man? I wouldn't if I'm a Chelsea fan. If Donnarumma's out there, 26 years old, give him that lifetime contract, mate. Give him that 10-year deal. Give him that death roast deal. You're literally gonna go from maybe a top 10 keeper if you're pushing it with Sanchez to literally a top 3 goalkeeper in the world. You can probably get away with 50 million instead of spending 40 million on Garnacho. Spend 10 million more and get the best goalkeeper in the world right now. Why not? Are you really gonna let Man United or Saudi Arabia beat you to Donnarumma, who's 26 years of age and goal as a goalkeeper as well, being 26 on the way out, mate? That is young for a goalkeeper. He's world class. We've seen it. He really had a great performance against Arsenal throughout the Champions League. He was amazing even against Liverpool. Shown that he's going to beat the top Premier League clubs. He was phenomenal against both those teams. And you as Chelsea, you want to compete with Liverpool and Arsenal. I think it's time. If I'm Chelsea, I look at Donnarumma and I give him an offer he can't reject, man. I would do that over even Xavi Simons, man, because without him, Cole Palmer goes there. Joao Neto instead. There's plenty of other options on the wingers that they have. That's what I'd be looking at because genuinely, the goalkeeper position is so important. You've got everything else basically but the goalkeeper. And there's one right there, best in the world, 26 years of age. Mate, go do it. You have Champions League football. Take advantage. If I were Chelsea, that's what I'd be doing. Not no Xavi Simons, not no Garnacho. Go out there and get Donnarumma. I don't understand. You've already got all these wingers that you and attackers you've bought this season. It's a no-brainer to go out and upgrade the one position that's super upgradable, which is goalkeeper, man. You're basically driving a Ferrari without an exhaust. Get the exhaust thing. Get the best exhaust possible. Make that car sound great. That's what you're going to do with Donnarumma at Chelsea. But anyways, make sure to leave a like and subscribe, leave a comment down below. If you were Chelsea, would you rather get Xavi Simons and Garnacho or just Donnarumma to finish out the transfer window? If I were you guys, I'd be all in on Donnarumma because that man is a game changer. He will literally win you the league, possibly. He gets you closer to winning the league than Xavi Simons and Garnacho. That's not even a debate. But anyways, thank you guys for watching.